What's going on, everybody? What happy Tuesday, happy Taco Tuesday, July the 13th. We are on the road, CTM on the road this morning. We got an old school session without the video. Nevertheless, we are going to do it hot. We're going to do it hard. We're going to do it better than anyone else. We're going to make sure that we do our best to stay on top of the most important trade that matters. The bull of all the bulls, Jordan. It's not looking bullish. It's looking really bearish, actually. We got this morning here with you all this morning. We have like a little bit of a theme to this stream. We have 3 questions we're going to cover. We're going to cover, shared on Twitter, this really nice question by, forgive the pronunciation, Belatoshi, right? He's asking, are 2 cycles a sufficient data set to draw conclusions from? And we know that past performance is not indicative of future results. What happened to analyze? They're all good questions. What happened to analyzing price and price alone, right? On-chain metrics used to support narratives. Not heard any bearish takes. Only Hopium being spread. All good stuff there that we're going to cover. Then we're going to look, how could you have protected yourself better? We're going to look at that one very closely over there. That was brought upon by Tom Jesse over in the Discord yesterday. And then number 3, we're going to focus on the technicals across the markets over to here. Bitcoin this morning down almost 2%, $32,500. There's talk out there, right? It's with Melon Capital. Is it Melon Capital or Melon something else? We have Grayscale partnering to go ahead and tighten up their ETF application with the SEC. Is that what Bitcoin needs in order to do Bitcoin things? Is that signal or is that noise? Either way, it's going to eventually, it looks like there will be an ETF. And whether or not that's this cycle or next cycle, that ETF is going to bring a massive amount of inflows into the space. I don't think Bitcoin needs an ETF. It's going to happen anyway. That's what it looks like. I feel a little off out of my office. I'm going to do my best to go ahead and get fired up over here. Do your part, play your part, smash the like button. Let's get going this morning. Before we do, just a quick sound check. Are we good this morning, fam? Are we good to go? It is. There we go. It is those thumbs up flying that really get me going. If you want to smash the thumbs down, I appreciate it because that does help the channel. Maybe you don't want to be here. Go ahead and smash the thumbs down on your way out. Grateful for that as well. All right, everyone. What are we looking at today? There we go. Lots of love to you. Lots of love to you. It's Taco Tuesday, July the 13th, 2021. What a beautiful moment to be alive. Even better to be sharing it with all of you. What a journey it has been so far. We've been together here in CTM for about 1.5 years now. For about 1.5 years, we've been on the right side across all markets, right? Longer than 1.5 years. We started in November 2019, right? We have a history of being on the... Jordan, Bitcoin is bearish. Bitcoin is down 50%, right? And how on earth could you say that you're on the right side? Right? Fair question. It's a fair question. Let's take a look at it. We're going to start with this one. Are 2 cycles a sufficient data point to draw conclusions from? Before we do, listen, because I got to talk about the traditional markets. And when I say I have to talk about the traditional markets, right? We're always aware of what? We're aware of the greatest signal. What's the greatest signal? That Bitcoin is off 50% from the all-time high after being up, and still up over 12 months, 250%. No. That's not signal. That's a result. What is it a result of? Of the central bankers' monetary policy. That's the signal that we follow, right? So we have to follow what those central banksters are doing all the time, right? And what are they doing now? They're talking about and setting up the possible quote-unquote taper. I say quote-unquote because what is that taper going to be? Is that going to be quantitative tightening where they actually take liquidity out of the market? No, it's not. Might they taper off the amount of purchases they're making monthly? Sure. Why haven't they done that already? Because they can't, Jordan. Oh, why can't they? Because the system needs more and more and more money in order to function, right? And that's starting to grow exponentially, right? Oh, so what happens first? Are they going to taper or are they going to actually increase their QE purchases? Well, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But what they're telegraphing, or what they want the market to believe right now, is that they're getting set to taper. And what that's going to look like is they're going to be setting up in the next meeting, setting up Jackson Hole to set up the meeting in September to start talking about September. And then maybe, maybe by the December, by the December meeting or the January meeting, they may actually begin tapering. That gives us a long runway. That's a half a year from now. That gives us a lot. What's going to happen? What happens with the Delta Bravo variant? That's going to be, in September and October, especially when flu season starts. What's going to happen when, California goes back on lockdown and New York City is not moving? Do they come in with more easing, or are the jobs returned? Look, we'll get into all that as it comes. I just want to throw this timeline in front of you, and the reason being is because we're looking at things that could derail the Bitcoin bull market. Jordan, the Bitcoin bull market's derailed. We're down 50% from the all-time high. It's done. What are you talking about? Derail the bull market, right? Listen, you have to follow those with a history being correct. Jordan, how on earth could you say that you've been correct? We are off 50%. I have not heard any bearish takes, and only hopium being spread. I want to answer all these questions as authentically and with as much sincerity as possible, because listen, other people probably have the same questions, right? And I want to answer them without any type of, let's say, bad vibes, I guess we could put it. Did you see Alan AU was over here in News BTC? They were quoting Alan AU and his on-chain analytics. Beautiful stuff. So proud to see that over there. Most of you saw it. But anyway, let's get this one out of the way. On-chain metrics are used to support narratives. I very rarely, we're all going to be authentic here. We're all going to be sincere. It's got to be on both sides. I rarely refer to or use on-chain metrics. Less than 1% of the time on my streams. And yeah, it's true. I'm aware of them, and they're all like uber bullish. That's a good thing. I like that. If they were bearish, the only thing that would mean to me is that we were in a bear market, but I would be aware of that ahead of time. I think on-chain metrics are cool for supporting narratives. They're not any type of leading indicator whatsoever, right? But they're giving you that awareness that you're flying at 20,000 feet and you're heading in the right direction and everything looks good. But let's if we're talking about what's going on at CTM, let's talk about what's going on at CTM. And I very rarely consult on-chain metrics, right? I've not heard any bearish takes. All right. What happened to analyzing price and price alone? Let's start here, right? So what's your time preference, and what are you looking at, right? Because when we're following price and price alone, are you talking about from a swing trader's perspective, right? Are you talking about getting in and out of a trade with a pretty short time horizon? Doing that off the 8-hour time frame, holding a trade hopefully for more than a few days so that it starts running in your favor, and then trying to push that as far as you can? Are you trading or are you investing? You have to differentiate the two, right? You have to break it down. Let's keep it as simple as possible. Are you trading or are you investing? And if you're investing, I think you're focused. Well, I know at least I am focused on different technicals than if I'm trading, right? And I have a history of trading Bitcoin, together here with all of you, and that occurred from the very specific area. It's when we broke out into the bull market, but it wasn't on the break, right? It was after the retest and then on the resumption up, right? And from all of this up until May 14th, I was trading Bitcoin, and I was focused in on the technicals and focused in on that price action, waiting for each correction, right? Let me come down to the 8-hour really quick with you. Waiting for each correction and then getting the repair out of it. Like nobody's business, right? But then what happened? A couple of things, and let's be fair about it. Let's be as honest as possible. I want everyone to walk away with simple clarity. And this includes you, someone who, obviously has not been paying attention. That's okay. You're here today, right? I want to make sure that you get it and you get it right. I've not heard any bearish takes. All right. Well, let's give this like as much sincerity as possible. When price was up in this area, right? Like all through the end of March and into the beginning of April, for about 3 or 4 weeks straight, you heard constantly from me one thing and one thing only. Beware of a shakeout. Beware of the mid-cycle shakeout. Beware of a mid-cycle shakeout. That's all, right? Now, listen, I've been very clear from the very beginning, and the very beginning in this trade early, that I'm not going to sell Bitcoin at any time during the bull market. I was extraordinarily clear. That's not to say that you don't have to. I think it's a fool's errand to sell Bitcoin in a bull market. And the reason why is because I talked about you're going to see volatility to the upside, and people that sold their Bitcoin are going to be wind up buying it back higher. And that happened for the majority of the run. For the majority of the run, that held true. Now, if you're picking what happened over the last 6 weeks or 2 months, how long is this? April into May into June. The last 3 months now from the cycle peak, right? It was 3 months to roll over. It's 3 months now from the exact cycle peak. And if you're talking about, well, I've been selling Bitcoin over here and I'm doing well. Yeah, that's true then. There's no way that I would counter argue that whatsoever. I'm sure you have, right? But I'm also sure that during this time, you were either also selling Bitcoin or you were not even involved in the trade, right? It's not as if you were like, able to like, buy and trade on the upside and then flip here and start trading on the downside magically. Let's be sincere here. But I was talking about a shakeout that could occur mid-cycle. And I did refer to the past cycles that each had a shakeout mid-cycle. Now, it's true that, over and over again, I said, listen, it could be as much as 40%. That's the truth. That's authentic, right? And I gave 39%. Is that what I said? 39%, 40%. I didn't know it was going to be 53%, but I wasn't trying to time it to the downside either. Like, that's fair and that's true. But you didn't hear any bearish take. Who else was telling you watch out for a mid-cycle shakeout and that it could be as much as 40%? How do you get more bearish than that? Or what are you looking for? Well, you didn't tell me it was 53%. I have no idea that it could be 53%. I have no crystal ball whatsoever. I'm not a clairvoyant. I am not an oracle. All I'm able to do is look at markets, see trends, spot trends, be preemptive of trends, right? And set my risk accordingly. That's all I could do. When price started shooting up over here, the risk was to the upside for this brief period of time. For that brief period of time, I'm watching out for a melt your face off move to the upside, right? But very quickly, for me, it was $62,500. It's on tape. It's on video. I said, if you're not out by 58,500, you're dead wrong. That's just from a trading perspective. This is for those that were like, their time preference was really, 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 really short. They were trading in and out, right? And by the time we reached May 14th and things got very fuzzy and unclear, I was out of the markets. The Bitcoin was above 50,000, mind you, right? Riding that up. And this is from a trading perspective. This is just trading, right? So if you want to focus on the technicals, or if you want to be truthful, or if you want to be authentic, right? What happened to analyzing price and price alone? Well, it was done. And honestly, who did it better? It's just a question of what you're in the process of either being open to receiving information or not, right? You're either investing your time daily doing the work or you're not, right? But if you're only picking up the hopium that's being spread, right, then that's on you, because you're not looking at the markets or even on CTM, Conca Trading and Investing, in what's being shared and how it's being shared. So what about since? Well, how come you're not selling this thing? We're down 53%. Well, I'm not going to sell it. We're in a bull market. How could you say we're in a bull market? Well, listen, I don't know. In the last 12 months, price is up 250%. Why would I not think that's a bull market? Jordan, when price comes off 20% in traditional markets, it's no longer a bull market. Okay, so you're telling me that this was no longer a bull market, that this was no longer a bull market, that this was no longer a bull market, and this goes on and on and on. No, that's not how it works, right? Well, this is Bitcoin, and I do consult past cycles. All right, is that enough? This is a very good question over here, right? Is that enough? Is it a sufficient data set to draw conclusions from, right? Obviously, past performance is not indicative of future results. Is this time different? And if it's different, what does that mean for Bitcoin? What does that mean for your position? We gotta look at it, and it's got to be true. There are other people who take a look at a couple of data points and they make conclusions, right? Diminishing returns, lengthening cycles. Is that enough data points to come to a conclusion? No, it's the only data we have, right? It's the only data we have so far, and all we're doing is looking at the data that we have to date, and then we're making conclusions, and those conclusions are not indicative of future results. It's the markets. Anything could happen. Make sure you manage your risk. You have to understand that. But I do look at Bitcoin, right, from multiple different vantage points, laying it up, layering it and slicing it like an onion, unveiling all the layers, right? Because there are many different angles that you can get a look from. And I look at them all repeatedly, right, in order to get my understanding and my bearings of where I am. This one was actually one that I looked at early on when I presented the case for you, for the bullish case for Bitcoin and the 4-year cycle, right? And price at the time was right around here. It was in October, November, December, price trading between $7,000 and $8,000, right? And what I did was had you visualize where price would be today. And guess what? Price is exactly where I envisioned it would be today, right? Did I do that consulting past models with only 2 data points? Yes, I did, right? Now, by the way, in doing that, right, and multiple strategies across deployed multiple different ways, one of them happened to be, on a BlockFi account, right? And that investment on the BlockFi account starting with $52,000 is now up 4x, right? Mid-cycle, where were you when you were not consulting past cycles, right? Drawing conclusions from only 2 cycles, right? Because you didn't think that was sufficient data, right? So you weren't in the trade because you didn't consult past cycles in order to get the understanding of what the 4-year cycle was. It's the same argument right before the halving. And it was an argument. It was a discussion that the halving's priced in. That the halving's priced in. You can't consult 2 past cycles and tell me that the halving is not priced in. Well, that's exactly what I did, right? And there's someone that's proven correct. There's one side that's proven correct. It's the side that says the halving's not priced in. The side that said again that the halving's priced in is once again proving wrong, right? Now, there's the people who believe in the 4-year cycle. I myself one of them, or the 210,000 block cycle, right? So far to date, I've been proven correct, right? If you're jumping in today and you're like, you can't consult past cycles, well, where are you? And how'd you get into the trade? How did I know? Like when I called the bottom over here, and it's on Twitter, you could go ahead and you could look at it. I called the bottom in December 2018, right? How did I do that when Bitcoin was uber bearish, off 84%? People calling for $1,000 Bitcoin without consulting price behavior and the past 4-year cycle. It's only through the 4-year cycle. Now, I don't know if that continues. We looked at in yesterday's video, there are people who once believed in the 4-year cycle. They're saying that no longer continues, right? That the 4-year cycle is now broken. And they're looking at it because it's broken because, well, I'm not really sure why. They're saying it's broken. I want to pull up a different model over here. This is the CTM model. And for me, they pretty much are matching up. They rhyme. They're not the same. We said from the very beginning, we're not going to see the exact same price behavior, but we're looking for it to rhyme. And it's rhymed all the way through to where we are right now, mid-cycle. The root, the rational root, gives us some really good views of how this is rhyming from different angles. And we could see that this continue. By the way, right now, how many days past price making a new all-time high are we? Are we roughly 216 days past price making a new all-time high? In the past cycle, since price made the new all-time high, in the 2012-2016 cycle, they went from about approximately 278 days to 281 days. Is it possible that this cycle is different in many different aspects? Yes. It's possible that this cycle actually does see, it doesn't peak in that 280-day area. Maybe it goes longer. Maybe we're looking at lengthening cycles. Are we going to see lengthening cycles and diminishing returns? Anything's possible. That is definitely not my base case. If we do see a lengthening cycle, I do believe that we're going to be looking at increased returns this particular cycle. Now, I don't know, and I don't have the future, but it's too soon to say anything's broken. Everything to me looks like it's right on time. I continue to hold and maintain my position. Now, it comes up like, how could I have protected myself better? Right? If I'm looking at this, I actually still believe that, we're going to have a future halving event. And after that halving event, it's going to, I'm so sorry. I got dispersed in my thinking. I meant to say there are people who think that the 4-year cycle no longer exists. What is their base case now? What has it become? Are we in a bear market? Are we going down to $20,000 Bitcoin? And a lot of people think like, did you notice that a lot of people right now look at Bitcoin 20,000 as almost like a given? That seems like a lot of hopium. If you're bearish and you're looking for 20,000, that seems like a massive amount of hopium. Where are you drawing that conclusion from? If you're looking at the charts and the charts alone, well, how do you get 20,000 and why? Could it happen? Absolutely. It could definitely happen. Look, we know your risks, understand your risks, right? We don't know if Bitcoin's bottom's in place. Mid-20s is absolutely possible. In yesterday's, looking at the technicals, cloning, the most important trend line in crypto, we looked at where price, if we break out and take out this current band of support around 31,000, where we could end up in the mid-20s and why, right? Is $20,000 probable? I don't know about that. Probable? Is it possible? Yes. People are talking about it like it's a foregone conclusion. Well, is that hopium for the bears? If you're going to be authentic on both sides, right? You can't jump in mid-cycle, mid-conversation and pretend that you know what's going on if you haven't been involved in the trade and you're not on the right side of the trade. And the right side of the trade, by the way, is not this is a 53% move. No one catches the exact top and no one catches the exact bottom. So if you got like the sweet spot of this, let's say you got 35% of that and you are a hero, you think that's the right side of the trade as opposed to the 250% that you're missing out on, right? And sorry, let me 250% that you're missing out of. I think you're on the wrong side of the trade. And not only do I think you're on the wrong side of the trade, I mean, my P&L versus your P&L says like strongly you're on the wrong side of the trade. And that's going to get ugly when price does break. In my opinion, not financial advice, it's a matter of time before price breaks the most important trend line in crypto. Here's a really good look at it. Until price breaks the most important trend line in crypto. And when it does, we're no longer mid-cycle. We're into the end part of the bull market cycle, something that we've been not only preparing for ahead of time, then participating in full time, right? And then again, at the end of the cycle, looking for that exit at the cycle peak. That's conquering the markets all day long. Now, how could you have done it better though? If we're going to see this type of volatility to the downside, how could I protect myself any better? I really didn't pay attention when you're talking about like things are very unclear. When things got very unclear at $50,000, I honestly wasn't paying attention, Jordan, because I was stuck on hopium, right? And when Jordan is like, for the first time is since I've started this channel, I'm telling you, I don't know what's going on, and things are very muddy and very unclear to me. And you thought that that wasn't signal, like, friends, that's not on you, that's on me. I mean, that's not on me, that's on you, right? I'm telling you as authentically, as sincerely as possible, I don't know what's going on. Things are unclear. I'm getting neutral, right? And I haven't traded since, and things have not been clear since. And things won't be clear until we break that most important trend line in crypto. We have the first repair in. This was the first and only repair that is mentioned ever since that May 14th day, right? And here it is on video when it was mentioned and why. Is it possible that this gets stopped out? Yeah, it's entirely possible. That's how you manage your risk. But at that point, taking the first repair, your risk, compared to just even into the resistance is exceptional. It's beautiful. And then if you break out past the resistance and it's on and back to new all-time highs in price discovery, then in hindsight, you're going to wonder, wait, why was I bearish mid-cycle? What was I thinking? Why did I get greedy thinking that Bitcoin is going to go down? And is it possible that Bitcoin goes down 85% right here mid-cycle? I mean, anything's possible. I would not be prepared for that. That would take me back down all the way towards my average price. That would be nasty. That would be entirely nasty. But am I selling my Bitcoin? Has anything changed for the bullish case of Bitcoin? What's the signal that we're following? The central bank fractional reserve monetary system. Has that changed? Have they stopped the fraud? No. Right? All right, let's bring it back. How could we have protected ourselves? And I want to be very clear that I would not have done this. I would not have, I'm going to tell you why. But yeah, it's true. And we talked about shortly thereafter. I don't know if Jesse brought it up on the live stream or how exactly it happened. But at the time that we had this cross to the downside on the true trend, right? Price though was down around $43,000. And you could see that that's lagging from where we were able to say, you know what, something's not right. It's time to get on the side, substantially lower. But nevertheless, this was introduced as a simple and effective but very profitable strategy. Now, unfortunately, this was released all the way in October 2019, so it's gotten very few views. Probably most of you haven't seen it. Now, it is on the Bitcoin playlist on the channel, so you have the opportunity to see it if you're doing your research, but very few people have had the opportunity to see it. It gives probably the most effective strategy there is for like the average person to trade Bitcoin. And the video, if you want to watch it today, goes over why it works, how it works, exactly how it's worked in the past. There's no way that the average person could get in and out of Bitcoin, let's say at a safer, more protected way. But here's what I think happens. I've been trading with the true trend for, oh my goodness, 2007, 2006, for 14 years, for a decade and a half. What I believe happens is that as price goes ahead and crosses to the upside again, that actually price is going to be higher than where the exit was at $43,000. I think that as the true trend crosses positive again, that price is going to be, now how much higher? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. If you were looking to protect yourself and you simply exit, we don't sell on the way down, by the way. Even if you're in a bear market, we don't use this to sell on the way down. This is to only exit long trades. The strategy is described fully here. It's 12 and a half minutes, and will give many of you who are listening today the plan for the next 11 years, that if you execute it and have the discipline and the foresight to follow it, you will walk. There's no way or any other strategy that you will walk away more profitable from, in my opinion. Not financial advice, but do your own research. Definitely consult this video. I think that I have a much greater chance of being able to be much more profitable by exiting cycle peak instead of waiting for this crossover, right? And by what that looks like is, like, I believe when we enter the blow off top mania phase of Bitcoin, right, that I'm going to be able to exit as close as I can towards the top. And that's a difference between exiting towards that top end, that top 20, 25%, or exiting 50% lower. I'm not looking for a true trend cross, but if this is your style, and if you're saying to yourself, you know what, during this bull market, I wish I would have exited Bitcoin mid-cycle as price came off a little more than expected, right? I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on when we were focused on the technicals, and I need something that's in my face and easy. We'll pull up the True Trend BTC, get on the 12-hour, and make sure you're following those signals. It's the easiest and quickest way to do it. And I think that, for a lot of people, it's the way, not for myself. For myself, I believe that I'm going to be way more profitable not following this simple, very easy, profitable way. What else? Is it time to focus in on the technicals? Let me defer to the comments though. Is there anything I missed regarding the 4-year cycle? 349 likes this morning. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for supporting where we do, right? Bitcoin right now trading off $32,533, down 1.7%. We're in the middle of the summer and it seems like the markets are very correlated. When I see very correlated, I mean, we're seeing the dollar rising. We're seeing the dollar getting ready to perhaps break that neckline, and Bitcoin is coming off. What happens if the dollar breaks this neckline and we see further dollar strength, right? Is that indicative of dollar strength anyway? No, this is the dollar versus other fiat. Don't mistake that or get that wrong. That's not the that's not the purchasing power of the dollar increasing or anything like that. And some people might get confused. That's just the dollar versus a basket of other fiat. Nevertheless, if the dollar is able to get bid here to break above this trend line, right? Are we going to see further pressure on Bitcoin? It was last Friday. Sincerely, go back on the channel, find where it was last Friday's video where I talk about what happens if the dollar strengthens. We look at past cycles, past price behavior of Bitcoin, when the DXY was at its strongest. During those periods where the dollar's at its strongest, Bitcoin also was at its strongest, right? We have no history of the dollar being, going on a tear, acting strong, and Bitcoin acting weak as a result. Now, it's true when the dollar sells off, that also adds fuel to the fire of Bitcoin, and that helps Bitcoin or seems to help Bitcoin. But in looking at the strongest periods of the dollar, when the dollar gets above 96, 97, 90, when it's running really hot and strong, Bitcoin acts even stronger, outperforming that strong dollar. Bitcoin third quarter 2021, this message has not changed in a year, is going to really break all correlations. I told you a couple of things. I told you in the first quarter 2021, Bitcoin was going to break all correlations. You all saw it. Everyone was shell-shocked from the March crisis and how correlated Bitcoin was to the rest of the markets, and they kept worrying that the stock market was going to correct. And I kept saying Bitcoin is following its 4-year cycle, right? It's having every $210,000 blocks. Watch what happens. We saw in September, October, as the equity markets correct strongly and Bitcoin traded up 20%, that correlation began to break. Right now, we are mid-summer. We're in the summer doldrums, it seems. The markets are kind of quiet right now. A lot is happening, though. We are at some pivotal points. One of them is here, what's happening in the dollar. Another, what has happened on the breakdown of the 10-year. We have covered all these things at the right time as these trend shifts were occurring, and we're making sure that we continue to stay on the right side of the trades, right? Is there anything in the market right now that's concerning when we look at the equity markets? Nope. Equity markets continue to look good. They continue to look strong. Are they throwing a taper tantrum? Not yet. It's entirely possible that at some point in the future, they very well could. But right now, that's not what we're seeing. We are following price and making sure that we're on the right side of the trade, right? There was a question I saw in there that I want to get a quick look at. It was something about, Jordan, if we break 30K, look at below. If you aren't a trader but have long-term position, should you put in a stop loss? So let's take a look at this together, right? Bitcoin, let me pull it up. If we break $30,000, there's a good chance that we're coming down. We looked at this together recently. Let me just do it again really quick and just draw this clone trend line in. I'm stopping it over here after all this volatility and price then 1, 2, 3 times has confirmed this trend line in. If we break down, I believe that will provide support. Now that's coming in the mid 20s, right? Whether or not we have an exact touch to it, whether or not we go a little bit below it, or, are you looking to exit Bitcoin? By the way, not for everyone in the world. It depends where you live in the world, but that becomes a taxable event for a lot of people. Exiting your Bitcoin becomes a taxable event. And then how far down would Bitcoin need to go for you to be able to buy in and then make it neutral for the tax you had to pay on that? For me, it's not worth it. I'm holding the Bitcoin. For me, it's not worth it. I'm holding because I'm not, I've been holding. The only time that I've added to Bitcoin is mid-cycle, 39,500 and 33,000. Right? Those I bought the dip mid-cycle. Aside from that, everything I've been holding has held for over a year. Right? I'm not looking to sell my Bitcoin over here and then buy it back lower. Now, is there a risk if you do that? Right? What's the risk? At this particular point in time, listen, I tried to time it as well as possible with you all. And that included watch out for a mid-cycle shakeout, right? Price comes off 30% and then it starts repairing out and comes up. And I'm like to all of you, look, it's going to be a V recovery. It's going to be very sharp and it's going to melt your face off. Okay? And then and I said that this is the bottom of that parabolic move right here. I said this is the bottom of the parabolic move right over here. And it's going to be a V and it's going to be sharp. And then price went up and then boom, came down like this, right? This is Elon's tweet. Price comes back down. And then I say to you, listen, it's not a V. I was totally wrong. Now price is still higher, barely, but higher than the bottom of the V when I said it. And at that point, very quickly, I'm correcting myself and I'm saying I was wrong. That's what a trader does. As quickly as possible, gets back on the right side of the trade. There's no problem being wrong. That's what a lot of people miss. They feel like they can't be wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong. I just want to be on the right side. So when I'm trying to time this as acutely as possible, telling you about this time of cycle, it rhymes, it's not the same, that I'm looking for a V-shaped recovery. But then at the same time, I'm wrong, except more than half the people following from afar or not paying attention. They all as they have in their mind is that I say that there was going to be a V-shaped recovery and it was going to be sharp and it was going to be quick and then it was going to melt your face off, right? But not with authentic, not being sincere, not being real. Those same people are not hey man, how quick was Jordan able to admit he was wrong? And not only that, get out of the trade, not even at break even. Better than break even. Man, could you imagine this guy so quickly able to see that he's wrong, admit that he's wrong, and get back on the right side of the trade? And that was out of it for me, right? Not looking for a 53% correction. Just get out of the side of the trade. But most of you didn't do that. The majority of you were not able to do that. And this is a relationship. It works on both ends. And that whole subset of people who are not able to be authentic about what happened, well, there was consequences for that. What were the consequences? Well, the consequences are that I'm going to do my best to keep everyone on the right side of the market, but I have to be a lot sharper and clearer and baby spoon feed my communication to you, right? So now we don't have the ability, as we come down over here and we see a massive capitulation, right? And if we see a capitulation, right, I myself, right, those in CTM, they'll know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But do you think that I'm going to tell you, listen, it's going to be sharp, it's going to be a V, and there we go from here? There's no way. There's no way I will do that, and publicly announce what is happening as it's happening and why it's happening, right? Why won't I do that? Because when I did it over here, and then corrected myself. You know what? I was wrong. That's not a V. Exact words. I was wrong. That's not a V. It's not sharp, right? But people couldn't handle it, right? Or people on the internet, on the World Wide Web. When I say people, I don't mean everyone, but a lot of people on the internet, they are just programmed with negativity. They are just programmed with a defeatist attitude. And that negativity is highly contagious. It's like a rotten apple, like spoiling the whole bunch. The negativity is absolutely so. Here, what I try to do is I try to counteract that negativity. I try to spread a positive outlook on life. Right? I try to share the principles that have helped me, that have formed me, and have caused me to be incredibly successful in all aspects of my life with all of you. And it is contagious on that side, the positivity, because all of you who are sincere, who are authentic, who have the ability to think for themselves, who have the ability to reason and take responsibility, right? You all are a contagious bunch. You spread positivity massively. It's like the more you give, the more you receive. And by me giving a little of myself, I have the opportunity to receive a lot of goodness and kindness from all of you. And I'm grateful for it, but it is an open forum what we do here, right? And there's a lot of people, a lot of nasty people, not the silent majority, not the people that have already gone on to do life-changing things because of the information that we do here together on this channel. And there's an army of them. There's an absolute army of them, right? So, are you going to sell if Bitcoin breaks $30,000? Should you sell? Should you get protected? You should understand your risk, right? If price breaks down there, and that looks like to a lot of people a head and shoulders breaking down, there could be a massive consequence. There could be a big dump, right? And that dump might not hold in the mid-20s. That dump might not hold at 20,000. And if that happens, and if price takes out the previous all-time high, everything is out the window, right? Like we are kind of lost with what's going on. And what happens in the near term, I do not know. I do not know what will happen in the near term from there. I don't know what this will look like. I don't know how many people will get liquidated. I don't know what type of margin calls people will face. And it is possible. Is it possible Bitcoin comes off 85% from its all-time high, coming back? Where does that take us, by the way? Back towards $9,000? Price comes off 85%. It takes us towards $9,500. I am personally back towards my break-even price. That would be massively hurtful if that were to occur. There's no question about that. Could it happen? Yeah. Would I sell? No, I would not sell. There's nothing that has changed my mind, my opinion. I do believe that my understanding of the markets is extraordinarily solid. I do believe that the research that I've done over the last 20 years has formed not only a strong opinion of money, of the monetary system, of how things work together, right? Of understanding when I started stacking gold and silver a decade ago, of understanding sound money, right? How then I was able to understand the bullish case for Bitcoin because of my understanding of sound money, right? There's not anything, there's no alternative out there at this particular time like that I would feel comfortable and safe in investing in. There's no way I would give up my position. Do I think all of that's going to happen? No, I don't think any of that's going to happen. It could happen. It could happen, right? Am I prepared for it? Not really. I could tell you exactly what's going to happen, and if that were to unfold, like I would be feeling emotions. There's no question about that. But at the same time, it's not my first rodeo. What do I mean by that? Well, let me pull up just a quick chart for you. When I mean it's not my first rodeo, I mean I've been holding Bitcoin, and I've held Bitcoin through some massive drawdowns. By the way, this $14,000, Bitcoin trading at $14,000 to the June low is a 70% drawdown. I held through that drawdown, and I did not think for a second that the halvening was not going to send a supply shock throughout Bitcoin, or that we were in a bear market. Even when Bitcoin came off 70% over here, off of calling the bottom for the cycle low, I didn't think we entered a bear market. I thought that we were going through a liquidity crisis. And by the way, through other markets, whether it was selling the S&P 500, whether it was taking positions against commodity currencies, the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar, with risk off currencies, the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc, and turning swing trades into position trades and making more profits than I made than the decade before. The same thing happened during the 2008 crisis, because when a crisis is unfolding, it's an opportunity. If you're able to spot is a crisis unfolding right now? I don't see signs of anyone whatsoever. Could that change over the days and weeks ahead? Of course, I'm always watching out for it. I don't see one. And I've been consistent, by the way, since the Fed acted in March 2020, saying, listen, the Fed overreacted. There was a shortage of dollars. Now we have an excess of dollars. I do not foresee any crisis anytime soon. That's held to be true. There were a lot of people on the way up who were talking to you about insolvency events and like the market's when the market opens on Monday is going to crash, and none of that happened. Right? I also, by the way, not selling my Bitcoin at the top of the 2017 market, rode through an 84% drawdown. Right? Or through an 80. So am I able to stomach long-term volatility in Bitcoin? Yep, there's no question about that. Do I understand that to participate in some extraordinary gains, right, that you need to be able to withstand volatility? And it's not only to the upside. Like, everyone wants the volatility in Bitcoin to the upside, but few have prepared themselves that it's a volatile asset, and you see the volatility not only to the upside, but to the downside also. And you don't get your cake, right? What's the expression? You don't get your cake and have to eat it too? How does that even make any sense in the context of what I'm talking about? But what I'm trying to say is you're not gonna participate in the volatility to the upside. And if you think that Bitcoin has the chance to reach $500,000 and overtake the market cap of gold, which is my milestone, my next milestone for Bitcoin, and I don't think it stops there. If you think that price is going to appreciate, 14, 13x from here in a period of 4 years without having massive volatility, then you should probably look at buying the indexes and just dollar cost average into that over the next 10 years. Now, that could get very risky. There's no question about that. I that's not the decision that I would choose to make, right? It's right now we are seeing the equity markets track the liquidity of the central banks, but there's no question that could turn massive deflationary at any given time. There's a lot of risk there. We talk about it, we cover it together. Now's not the time. I just wanted to answer that question about if Bitcoin were to break $30,000, what should you do? Right? I think that you need to make that decision. I would not be selling my Bitcoin at all, right? And understanding that we could see some type of unforeseen events. What would those unforeseen events mean? It would mean Bitcoin not taking out to mid-20s, taking out 20,000, and then who knows what happens if Bitcoin took out the previous all-time high of the previous cycle. That would be, at that point, all models are broken. Many people are expecting all models to break to the upside, right? And rightfully so, right? When Michael Saylor talks about if all of a sudden you see an influx of money, right? And there's a reason people talk about an influx of money coming into the market, right? But when you're talking all of a sudden about not just $1 billion purchase, but billions of dollars flowing into Bitcoin, yeah, it's quite possible all models will break to the upside, right? And that we enter some type of, like, whatever you want to call it, super cycle, the last cycle, whatever it is. It's my opinion here, and I'm putting it out there because I think it's correct, that whatever money starts entering Bitcoin over the next 3 to 5 months, including in September, October, happens to be the time when a lot of funds make some big moves. It's why the market sees big moves why crashes happen in October, right? A massive amount of money being moved around for the year end. That there's a massive amount of money coming into Bitcoin, but in my opinion, the market is still very, very immature. It reached $1 trillion, but even if it was $3 or $4 trillion, it's a very small market compared to the amount of money out there, and it's still going to see those emotional dynamics, the psychology of a cycle play out, right? Because even if you start seeing some like sovereign wealth fund come in and like spend, a half a, an enormous amount of money, eventually the next fund is not going to be there. It is going to come down to supply and demand, and it only takes a little bit of money to move the price of Bitcoin around because the actual liquid supply of it is very small, right? Forget about there only being 21 million Bitcoin. Forget about the circulating supply being 18 million. Forget about Satoshi's coins that haven't moved. Forget about all the coins that are lost. Forget about all the whale hodlers who haven't moved their coins in like X amount of years, right? There's only a little bit of actually liquid Bitcoin out there. A significant amount of money could move that price significantly, and then when there's no buy there behind that, price could crash down. You saw price crash 53% in the middle of the bull market. If you don't think in the bear market it could crash further than 60%, I think that you're in for a rude awakening. So, why are we looking at this chart? I have no idea. Oh, $30,000. If we break $30,000, do you think that the trend line support, the green line, right, is going to hold somewhere around $20,000? I I would think so. We've had past experiences of price trading below it during the crisis. Down over here as well at the end of the bear market, it could happen again. But your risk to reward, you know, are you going to do you believe 4 years from now in the 2025 bull market phase that you're going to be wishing that you held Bitcoin at $30,000, or are you going to be glad that you sold it? That's the question I ask myself, right? If I'm looking at Bitcoin trading to $500,000, and I do believe that Bitcoin is eventually, the odds are stacked in its favor that there's a high probability Bitcoin will trade, overtake the market cap of gold, trade at $500,000 Bitcoin per coin, right? And it's not going to stop there, in my opinion, because the value of Bitcoin is way greater than gold. That it's going to go on to compete for a greater share of that M2 M1 monetary supply. I'm not looking to sell my Bitcoin over here. I bought the dip actually. I'm doing the adverse of what a lot of people are doing, but it's not the first time I'm doing the adverse of what a lot of people are doing, because over here is when I started accumulating. It's when I called the bottom, right? And then not only called the bottom, then called the move up shortly thereafter. So I've been doing a lot of things differently from a lot of people. When there's a lot of fear in the market over here, I was buyers both times. If we break 30,000, there's going to be an enormous amount of fear in the market. There already is right now. There will be more fear, right? And why I probably won't have the privilege, the opportunity to buy the dip, because I just bought the dip, right? I'm surely not going to be selling. I will be holding, and I will be waiting, understanding where we are and my risk to reward to the upside and downside. So, what else? 479 likes for 951 people. We got the summer crew in here this morning. We got the summer crew standing strong, making sure they stay on the right side. Jordan, how does China's population being taken out of Bitcoin, how does that affect the run? Yeah, this is a really great question, right? China's got this, and I don't know or understand that the population of China, it's over 1 billion people, right? Right? And China, they've done extraordinary things over the last 10 years, taking a large portion of that population out of poverty. It's been absolutely amazing, because poverty. Have you ever lived in poverty? Any of you? I have. So, and off of Providence, still to this day. So anyway, listen, most of the people in China, the wealth of China today does not compare to the wealth of the United States, or even remotely or close to it. If you look at how many billionaires are in the US, you look at how many billionaires are in China. You look at how many millionaires are in the US, you look at how many millionaires are in China. Are the people who have money in China still participating and able to participate in Bitcoin? Yep. What do? They go down to the casino, right? And they're able to launder money. Most of them participate more in Tether, from my understanding, than in Bitcoin. And they're able to, the way that they get through capital controls and to move money out of China, because they don't want to hold the yuan, right? Is through Tether. Do they participate in Bitcoin if they're into Bitcoin? Absolutely. But China has a lot of people. But it's not as if the population was taken out of Bitcoin. The population wasn't participating in Bitcoin. Now, it's different in the United States, which is extraordinarily affluent. You have a whole middle class participating in actually not only Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the whole crypto space, right? That's where a large portion of the speculation comes from, right? And it makes sense. And then you have countries like in Africa, in South America, right, who are out of need participating in Bitcoin. Now, does that, when you have that whale over in Silicon Valley who decided to put down a bunch of money in Bitcoin, who's putting down more money, the collective population of all of Africa right now, or that one, billionaire into Bitcoin? Obviously, it's the one billionaire in Bitcoin out of the US, but that will change over time, and slowly but surely, at first gradually, and then suddenly, as more and more people throughout the world, even with small amounts, and then small countries, and then multiple small countries, and then more public companies, some smaller public companies, some larger public companies, and then some sovereign wealth funds, and then ultimately you start seeing sovereign nations, as we just saw in El Salvador. 150 million, it's small, but you're going to see central banks taking positions, right? Our central banks right now, the Central Bank of Iran, doing it through proxy, not outright, but are they incentivizing the miners in Iran to mine Bitcoin with low cost of energy? It's all unfolding and it's all happening. And you're thinking of selling your Bitcoin here at $30,000? All right, that's maybe you are able to, maybe you don't have to pay taxes. Maybe you're able to time the market with such precision that you could, if Bitcoin comes down from 30,000 to 20,000, if it makes that 35% drawdown or 30% drawdown, you're able to participate it and then get the turn and then participate on the way up. Maybe, I don't know. All right, I think what we're gonna do here is, I missed a lot of questions. I'm gonna play Honeymoon vocals and then take us out of here today. If you thought we had a good session today, because a lot of important information was shared from my perspective, let's go ahead and hit a +1 or type in a +1 down over there.
Analyzing the charts, hitting projected targets within the margin. Find the flow, sip the matcha, and wait for the waves to come in with lobsters. The kind-hearted Jordan Fosters, working smarter, not harder to move the markers. On his way to conquer, trading and investing, drinking the coffee while reflecting on the blessing. The markets are not crashing, the prices might be slashing.
The most important meme in all of the financial markets, the markets are not crashing. And I can say that because when they were and when they did, we were there ahead of everyone. And not only that, we pushed it down to the bottom where you get the perma bears. As soon as the market started crashing, they just went contrarian. And they're like, this is the bottom. This is the bottom. Someone said, is there a difference between buying the dip or catching a falling knife? This is a good one over here. This is a very good question. And there is a difference, right? There is a difference between buying the dip, understanding what you believe to be mid-cycle, Bitcoin off 50% as an opportunity. But if you want to like wait for price to come out of, the correction and the repair, no one does it better. And we have the first repair that we ever looked at when price broke above this trend line over here. It's on the video, right? It's on this video. You could go let me pull it up for you. Let me share it in the chart, And if you want to see how to do that, why we did that, let me put this into the chat. Let me find the chat. Come back over to here, Gary, and watch us taking the trade out of the repair. That's the difference between, not catching a falling knife and waiting. And we have a history of doing this beautifully. When I say a history, I'm talking about through all of these market corrections. Like, people are very quick to point out what they believe to be a floor. This is the bottom of the V. We're entering a V. It's going to be sharp. Oh, wait a second. I'm wrong. That didn't happen. That's not a V. I'm wrong getting on the right side. But all the times that we came out of these markets corrections, this was traded so beautifully each and every time here on CTM. If you don't know how to do that, you got to start investing your time here, and follow. It's not something that's going to happen in one day or one session. It's a process. There's a reason that people spend an hour of their time every day on the CTM live streams, because collectively the knowledge that you're gaining that takes place over several days, over several weeks, and several months is providing the skill set, which provides an invaluable skill to be able to trade and maneuver in the markets with the clarity that we do. We don't have a crystal ball. All we're able to do is manage our risk around important levels. All right, everyone. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the session. 560 likes. I think there was at most like 900 people in here. That's a lot. That's signal. That's signal for me. Thank you to the moderators. I know that. I honestly do know that, but nevertheless, I want to take as many people as possible with us. Many are called, few are chosen, right? And here was one session, where we had to take a look at what is happening, what has happened, so we could go on in the future. Gary, at the meetup will be after the exit. We'll talk about the meetup, then we'll start planning, and we'll plan it with time so that we all get to do it, and it gets to be something beautiful to share in. But like right now, we are mid-cycle, all about business. Nothing has changed whatsoever. Dave, I think we're going to do it. We're away for the week. Things are a little off. It's probably going to get noisy, but that's okay. In 20 minutes, we're going to have a look at the FX markets. I'm going to send the link to the announcements channel in Discord and out to the email list in exactly 20 minutes when we go live. I'll see you all then. Have a beautiful day, everyone. And I'll talk to you. Was the CPI reading higher? I didn't even take a look at it. Right? I'm curious, but at the same time, I'm more curious to how the markets reacted. CPI, where are we looking at? Hold on one second. Wow, that doesn't look a little hotter. That looks a lot hotter. How are yields reacting to that? They're off. It's interesting. And by the way, not only off, it's that breakdown coming in for that retest right now. They're at a very important level because if they are able to get above this resistance, we looked at this really strongly. I think on Thursday's live training session, FX session, or in the general market outlook we did on Friday. If they get back above this trend line, they've gone neutral again, right? So we're at a very important level. Breakdown, retest right now. And if they resume back down, yields are going to continue to fall over here. The dollar also at this very important level. This is what requires patience. This is where it requires patience. You don't take a trade hoping that something's going to continue to play out as you hope it does. You just simply wait for the technical break, the breakout, the retest, and the resumption is your entry signal. Right now, we're being rejected by resistance over here. Is this higher inflation going to actually have the market have to price something different? I don't know. They're going to call it transitory. Now they went from calling it transitory to saying it's here. It's a good thing. Who knows? We know. All right, everyone. I'll see you all later.